Good morning and welcome to the officials from the Ministry of Finance, Investments Division, the Ministry of Works and Transport, and the Vehicle Maintenance Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, VMCOTT. My name is Senator Wade Mark, Chairman of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee. The Committee on Public Accounts Enterprises has a mandate to consider and report to the House of Representatives on the following. A, the audited accounts, balance sheets, and other financial statements of all enterprises that are owned or controlled by or on behalf of the state. B, the Auditor General's report on any such accounts, balance sheets, and other financial statements. And C, whether policy is carried out efficiently, effectively, and economically, and whether expenditure conforms to the authority which governs it. The purpose of this meeting of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee is to examine the audited accounts, balance sheets, and other financial statements of the Vehicle Maintenance Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago Limited, VMCOTT, for the financial years 2013 and 2014, respectively. The committee is desirous of hearing the challenges being faced by the key stakeholders at the Vehicle Maintenance Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago Limited in an attempt to determine some of the possible solutions to these challenges. The role of the committee is to help the Vehicle Maintenance Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, VMCOTT, to be in a better position to improve its delivery of services in an efficient, effective, and economic manner. This virtual meeting is being broadcast live on the Parliament's Channel 11 and Radio 105.5 FM and the Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView. Participants are advised that their microphones should remain muted until recognized by the chairman. May I call upon the following representatives to introduce themselves. Firstly, the Ministry of Finance, Investments Division representatives. Can you introduce yourselves at this time?
Good morning. I'm Sharon Mohammed, Acting Director, Social and Economic Transformation, Investments Division, Ministry of Finance.
Can I ask, are there any other members of that divisions with you?
Yes, I have two officers with me. Mr. Suresh Dan.
Yes.
Senior Business Analyst, and Ms. Kimberly Pascal, Business Analyst.
Okay. Can we now introduce officials from the Ministry of Works and Transport? Ministry of Works and Transport, please.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair and members.
Morning.
I am Dahanmati Ramdat, Deputy Permanent Secretary, leading the team of Ministry of Works and Transport this morning.
Can you identify your team?
Yes. We have Sri Sati Siram, our senior economist, as well as we have our Diane Shim, our Director of Finance and Accounts, joining the team this morning.
Thank you. And may I invite the Vehicle Maintenance Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago Limited, VMCOTT, to introduce their representatives here this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Senator Wigmark.
Morning.
I am the Chairman of the Board of Directors, Colonel Bennett, retired. And with me are three of my directors in my corpsec, Mrs. Melissa Boodoo James, Mr. Roddy Batchesing, and Mr. Mark Leeson. And my corpsec is Mr. Nigel Floyd. Alongside me are members of the management team, executive management team of VMCOTT. And they are namely Ms. Natasha Prince, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Vehicle Management Corporation. We have Mr. Larry Cummins, who is the Internal Auditor. We have Mr. James, who is our Finance Manager. We have Mr. Kendall Garcia, who's our Operations Officer.
That's your team, sir?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. May I at this time invite our colleagues at the level of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee to introduce themselves. Can I now invite members to introduce themselves?
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I am Amrita Devanarayan, member.
Morning, Rushton Parry, Vice Chairman of this committee, member.
Hi, good morning. I'm Leanne Gatsadori, member.
Good morning, all. Laura Lizama Leasing, member.
Do we have any other members? Okay. Well, thank you so very much, members. And let me, on behalf of our committee, warmly welcome all the officials from the Ministry of Works and Transport, from the Ministry of Finance, Investments Division, and of course the entity that we will be examining this morning, VMCOTT, and their representatives. May I welcome all of you. I would like to begin asking a few questions, and then I'll invite my other colleagues to join in this exercise. I would like to direct this first question to both the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Works and Transport and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, or their representatives here, to clear the air on the following. Given that VMCOTT main issue is its inability to turn receivables to cash, thus affecting its cash flow and ability to pay suppliers. What is the role of the Ministry of Finance, Investments Division, or the Ministry of Works and Transport with regard to this issue, seeing that most of its debtors are state agencies? Can I invite some clarification from these two entities at this time? Ministry of Works and Transport, and then the Ministry of Finance.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Regarding your first concern about the viability of VMCOTT, the financial viability of VMCOTT, I need to point out that the ministry, the line ministry, have been working along with VMCOTT, as well as the debtors that are part of the public sector to repay the debt owed to VMCOTT. I can share with you that the PTSC, that is the Public Transport Service Corporation, which is one of the debtor, have met together with the line ministry and VMCOTT to alleviate at least some of the debt. In doing so, we have settled for 6.4 million. And at this time, the ministry is working to assist PTSC in trying to get this 6.4 million to be able to pay VMCOTT. With regards to the TTPS, which is another debtor, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Commissioner of Police has appointed a committee to review all the records and the invoices and the claims that VMCOTT have made. So far, we have been recovering the monies from the TTPS it's slow, but we are getting it. I can tell you we have received at the beginning of this year 194,000 so far, and I'm sure we will be continuing to receive monies to clear those debts. In terms of your concerns about the financial viability, I must share with you that the Ministry of Works and Transport, along with the Ministry of Finance, we have been injecting finance to the VMCOTT on a yearly basis. In 2013, we had injected approximately 12 million. 2014, our records show it's approximately 14 million. To date, we have been injecting 10 million per year into VMCOTT to assist them in ensuring that they assist them in their business and their operations, and to assist in meeting their operational cost. Thank you, Chair.
Can you tell this committee whether from your assessment as permanent secretary, whether this company is viable?
I can share with you that, Chair, I think it is viable. It need to be rebranded, re-engineered, which the line ministry and the VMCOTT, and I'm sure the chair will elaborate on this issue. We have been working with Ministry of Finance along with VMCOTT to explore ventures in which VMCOTT can enter into to continue being viable. I can share with you, we are exploring a public-private partnership at this time.
Okay. What about, thank you so very much, Permanent Secretary. Can I get a response from the Ministry of Finance, Investment Division?
Thank you, Chair. The role of the Investments Division is to assist by encouraging discussions between the entities, such as VMCOTT, and to help them resolve their issues by reconciliation. With regards to VMCOTT, we held several meetings with the line and the TTPS and PTSC in order to resolve their issues. We also write to on the entities' behalf to the state agencies encouraging them to pay their debts.
Okay. Let me just ask another question. Despite VMCOTT's income being supplemented by an annual subvention of $10 million, as was indicated by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Works and Transport a short while ago. This company still incurs operating losses each year, to the point that as at fiscal 2020, VMCOTT had accumulated losses totaling some $91 million. From the ministry's analysis of VMCOTT's operations from inception to the current period, will discussions on VMCOTT's future need to be held, or based on its strategic initiatives outlined in the 2020-25 strategic plan, can VMCOTT turn itself around by 2025, or at least break even without further government assistance? Can I get some clarification from the Ministry of Works and Transport and the Ministry of Finance Investment Division? Can I invite the Ministry of Works and Transport, Permanent Secretary, to speak?
As I had indicated before, yes, I agree with you, like every organization right now, in this economic climate that we operate within, as well as the factor of the COVID pandemic that is affecting the economy globally. Like all the organizations, VMCOTT is one of those organizations. So, as I indicated before, we are exploring ventures in which VMCOTT can enter into to ensure that by 2025, they will be making a profit. I am very positive in saying this and making this statement. Further, in their strategic business plan for 2020 to 2025, VMCOTT has embarked on exploring new ventures and new initiatives, re-engineering the business processes, restructuring, in order to reduce the operational costs and improve on their financial viability. So I agree with you, Chair. It may be when you look at the financial statements, it might be looking daunting. However, we have hope. And we are positive that VMCOTT will be able to become viable by 2025, given all the factors put in place. Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Madam Permanent Secretary, would you be kind enough to amplify and clarify whether this company, since its founding in 2001, has this company made any profit, or has it been a loss-making entity since its founding? Could you clearly air for us on this? Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Works and Transport?
I am here, your Chair. And while in my previous statements, I keep saying, yes, I agree with you, Chair, that we have recognized that VMCOTT have been either breaking even from their inception or operating at a loss. However, you have to look at the factors that contribute to that loss. The fact there's a lot of entities that are owing funds, monies to VMCOTT. VMCOTT have been providing service and they have not been paid on a timely manner. And therefore, you would see in their financial statements that there have been a loss. And that is why the line ministry is working together with Ministry of Finance to ensure these entities who are the debtors within the public sector pay to VMCOTT so that VMCOTT, and once VMCOTT can recover the debt owed to them, Chair and members, I am telling you, they will come out of that loss.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Permanent Secretary. May I invite the chairman or the CEO of VMCOTT at this time to let us know whether statutory deductions are being remitted to the relevant agencies at this time. Can I invite the CEO of VMCOTT to respond, or the chairman?
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, members. Just to answer your question, Chair. No, it's not up to date as we speak because of our cash flow issues. That has dampened our inability to make those payments on time. However, we have made some strides in terms of the amount owing and the years that we are owing this amount. We are able to at least make payments up to 2018, and we are still constantly battling with our cash flow to pay for the other outstanding years as well.
So as we speak, Madam CEO, can you tell this committee how much NIS in a detailed way, or give us a summary, and then you'll put it in writing subsequently? How much statutory deductions that have already been made from the workers, employees, management salaries, how much are outstanding to the National Insurance Board and other agencies as it relates to NIS, National Health Surcharge, the question of PAYE, Green Fund Levy, as well as business levy. Can you give us an appreciation from your perspective, how much monies are owed to these agencies or entities as it relates to statutory deductions?
Yes, Chairman, presently we know we are owing 1.9 million to NIS. My finance manager is getting the other figures as we speak to give you an overall total. However, we will submit the full value with all the funds. Okay, hold on. So NIS, 1.246 million. That's a difference of 468,000 to date to bring it up to par. And PAYE, we are owing approximately 1.1 million, a difference of 446,000 to bring it up to current. And this one as well. And health surcharge, we are owing $45,350 with a difference of $18,770 to bring it up to current.
And could you tell us, Madam CEO, in terms of business levy and the Green Fund?
We don't have that information right now, but we will submit it in writing to you.
Now, Madam CEO, you know, this is a serious matter.
Yes.
You have employees who would be retiring, as you know, because we are all getting older. And if you have an employee, and I'm not saying that that is the case, but I'm saying hypothetically, if somebody reaches the statutory retirement age and they have to leave VMCOTT, and their monies have been deducted because your salary pay slips would reveal monies going to the Income Tax Board of Inland Revenue Office, monies are going to the agency responsible for collecting health surcharge. I don't know which agency right now as I speak, and the agency responsible for receiving the NIS, which is the NIB. When that person or those persons retire, what would be their situation in terms of accessing their monthly pensions, as an example? Because right now, as you said, 1.24 million owed to the NIB, 1.1 or thereabouts to the Board of Inland Revenue, and in terms of health surcharge, $45,350. What is to take place with these workers when they approach these entities? Have you all given that any consideration?
Yes, we have, Mr. Chair. Well, we have about 2 employees so far that has retired, and we didn't have any problem. We don't have any problems thus far. They are receiving their contributions. However, we know that this is serious and long term. It will affect their payments, and therefore we are working on whatever cash that we have on hand to try and clear it up. I think we can do it even faster, but because of our current cash flow issue, I think that is hampering us from making this payment monthly.
Can you tell us some of the cash flow challenges and how is this issue being addressed?
Yes. We have a lot of suppliers that we are owing a huge amount of money to for goods and services that they have provided to us. What we are doing to avoid any litigations, because we have rebranded the company and our brand is everything right now, we don't want to spoil the image or put it out there in the public domain as a failing organization. So what we have done is enter into payment plan agreements with most of these suppliers where we pay them on a monthly basis. So far, we have paid off 8 of them thus far just by making small monthly payments, and the others is ongoing.
Can you supply us with the names of those suppliers that you currently owe monies to?
Yes, we have a long list, and definitely we can supply to you in writing.
Okay. And then before I introduce my other colleagues, because I have a number of other questions I'd like to put to VMCOTT. Isn't this a breach of the law to deduct monies from workers' salaries and or wages and not have those monies sent to the relevant agencies by law? Is there a breach of the law involved here? Do you know?
No, I'm not aware.
Okay. I will revert to that issue in a short while, but let's deal with another quick matter issue. We did request from you the remuneration packages of all your executive management personnel along with your resume. You were very kind And I want to sincerely thank you for supplying the committee with the resumes. But what we did not have the opportunity of examining or receiving would have been the actual remuneration packages that the various executive management personnel currently receive or enjoy, including your good self. Would you be kind enough to tell this committee now what are the remuneration packages enjoyed by the following personnel within the executive management team? Starting with the Chief Executive Officer, including the Internal Auditor, the Finance Manager, Chief Operations Officer, and Operations Manager. Can you tell this committee what, for instance, you'll have to put it in writing, all the entire terms and conditions. So we want to know, for instance, their salaries and whatever allowances that these people or these office holders, I should say, enjoy. So like, for instance, your good self as Chief Executive Officer, would you want to tell me what is your monthly salary? Can you submit those things? I think you have to unmute.
Yes, my apologies. I just came up muted. Yes. Well, for my good self, is it possible, Mr. Chair, that I can submit all the remuneration packages in writing to you, sir? Because yes, I will know mine, but at the top of my head, I think it's only fair that I submit the whole entire executive team to you in writing.
Yes, but it is the reason why I'm asking you directly, and the reason why I'm asking you directly, and I understand what you're saying, but this is the second time we will now be asking your good self to supply this committee with the packages of those office holders. So you're getting a second opportunity to meet that request. So I hope that you will comply as we have requested.
Yes, sir, I will comply.
To get this information no later than the next 48 hours.
No problem, sir. We will comply.
May I now invite my other colleagues to join me and in this inquiry by asking their questions. And may I invite Rushton Parry to be followed by, well, first of all, I know, before I ask Rushton, I know Laura Lizama Leasing has to leave a bit early. So if she has any question, she can do so now, as well as Madam Glasby Dolly. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, you can follow after Laurel Lizama, and then I will then go on to Rushton, Amrita, and then Mr. Keith Scotland. So may I invite Laurel Lizama Leasing, if she's still here?
I'm here, Chairman. Thank you very kindly. Thank you so far for your line of questioning, Chairman. I felt that there are a number of outstanding documents that we need to receive so that we could further analyze the workings of this company. And I wish to stand down on any questions at this point in time, please. Thank you.
Thank you. May I invite Dr. Glasby Dolly, if she has any questions, Honorable Member.
Dr. Hi, morning Dolly. Everyone, and morning to. Are you hearing me? Morning.
Yes, I'm hearing you now. Thank you.
Wonderful. And morning to all members of the panel and the committee's officials from Ministry of Works and from VMCOTT. At this time, I would like to find out, with respect to the payments that are owed to the NIS and so on, how long has this situation persisted? Maybe the CEO can take that one.
Yes, CEO, Mrs. Natasha Prince, you can take that question.
Yeah.
Could you unmute your mic, CEO of VMCOTT?
Yes, between 2010.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not hearing her very well. She's in and out.
Yes, Mrs. Natasha Prince, could you unmute your mic and speak a little clearer so that the members can hear?
It is unmuted. Are you all hearing me?
Yes, a little better now. Yes.
Better? Okay, great. Yes. The challenges started from the period 2010 to 2013. Is only in the year of 2018, we started to try and bring it up to current, and so far it's been current from that period to 2018. Outstanding is 2019 onward.
Could you indicate, were you in the position at that time?
No, I was not. I was just a normal staff supervisor back then.
Okay, well, maybe you would be able to tell me what would have been the genesis of the issues between 2010 and 13 that would have resulted in these payments not being made?
Yeah, well, the same cash flow issues we were experiencing back then. We had challenges paying our suppliers because of course, our main client, which was the TTPS back then, they were not making payments on a regular basis. So that was kind of making our operations a bit crippled in terms of paying our creditors, and of course, paying the statutory deductions on time. So the challenges started way back then.
And if I may ask, maybe the DPS of Ministry of Works can tell me, what were the efforts made from at that time to be able to get the funds that are necessary from the TTPS so that this situation would not have arisen, and what is happening now that is different, that is allowing those payments to be made?
Member, please forgive me a minute. You know, when you're operating virtually, sometimes you hear, sometimes you don't hear. Can you just repeat your question?
Certainly. I was asking, during that time, what were the efforts made so that the payments that were needed to be able to make those statutory reductions, what were the efforts being made? I'm hearing the TTPS as the main issue. What were the efforts being made at that time, and what has changed systematically to allow for those payments to be made now, and so that these deductions can be caught up on?
Thank you, Member. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. As I indicated in my responses to Chair earlier, in terms of what we have been doing, we have been injecting funds to the entity so that they can meet the operational cost. As well as to date, they have attempted to restructure and to reduce in terms of reducing their operational costs so that they can meet their obligation, their statutory obligation at this time.
I'm sorry, what I'm asking is really, in terms of debt collection, what was indicated by the CEO was that the issues were getting the payments from those who owed VMCOTT. And I'm asking, what systems were put in place to be able to get the payments that were owed at that time, and what are you doing now that is different that would allow VMCOTT to recover the monies that are owed? That's what I'm asking.
Thank you. Thank you, Member. And unfortunately, I cannot speak for then, because when I came into the Ministry of Works and Transport and I was introduced to VMCOTT in 2015, I discovered that many of the public sector entities that receive services from VMCOTT, they were owing, and nothing was being done at that time. However, since 2015, I can assure you, we have been working together with Ministry of Finance as well as VMCOTT and the public sector entities to try to recover the payments that are owed to VMCOTT. I hope
Because
this answers you, yes, member.
I understand what you're saying, and my concern is that this is going to just be rolling over and rolling over. And of course, even though the CEO has indicated that there's no issue with the 2 employees at this time who are getting their benefits, one would not want to know that systematically there's not something in place to allow the company to recover the payments in a timely manner so that this situation does not persist. So that's really what I'm asking. I don't know if there's, I'm hearing what you're saying, DPS, I heard what you said, CEO, and if there is nothing else to add, I would just want to indicate that no company can operate in the way that this is happening now. And of course, it will be down to the detriment of the employees. And especially in this time, it's a difficult time that the world is going through. So I'm very concerned about understanding that there's something put in place so that the company systematically does not get itself back into this type of situation. I applaud the efforts to climb out of it, but one would expect that along with getting out of the hole, there would be things put in place to ensure that you don't get back into that situation. And that, of course, does not say that I don't understand the efforts of the Ministry of Works to ensure that the company at least is running afloat with their operational costs. Okay. Chair, that's it for me for this time.
All right, thank you so very much. Before I ask Mr. Roshan Parry to make his intervention, may I again, just following up on what the member just asked, that is our colleague, Honorable Dasby Dolly. May I ask Mrs. Natasha Prince, the CEO of VMCOTT, can you share with this committee the monies, the following, the monies that were supposed to be going to NIB and going to the control of accounts or going to the Board of Inland Revenue based on statutory deductions. What was that money being used for? Since it was deducted from the workers' salaries or the employees' salaries, but the monies were not going to the relevant entities. Can you share with this committee where was the money going?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The monies was used to fund the operations, to keep us afloat and keep the doors of the operations open. It was also used to pay off suppliers who wanted to take litigations against the company, to enter into payment plans, to pay them off, to try and, of course, absorb that debt and pay them off, and just keep the business going.
And Mrs. Prince, can you tell this committee whether these matters were drawn to the attention of your line ministry as well as the Minister of Finance?
Yes, it was drawn to the attention of our line ministry, and they are working with us, especially with the public entities, to try and recover those debts as we speak.
All right. May I then ask both the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Works and Transport, as well as the Ministry of Finance Investments Division, to really comment briefly on this matter that you have just responded to. Can I ask, first of all, the Ministry of Finance, and then later we'll get a response from the Permanent Secretary. Ministry of Finance.
Yes, Chairman. The Ministry of Finance, we will continue to work with VMCOTT and its line ministry to ensure that the company will meet its statutory payments, and also along with the budget division, who is responsible for the releases of funds.
Madam Director, this is an emergency. Yes, this is an emergency. People are retiring. They have paid their NIS. They have paid their health surcharge. They have paid their income tax, PAYE. What is the Ministry of Finance doing to make sure that this entity really honors their commitment to the NIB as well as to the Board of Inland Revenue? This is an emergency. As Mrs. Natasha Prince said, the last payment was in 2018. 2019 has passed. 2020 has passed. Can the ministry intervene as a matter of urgency in this emergency to allocate a specific sum of monies to this organization called VMCOTT to meet those obligations? That is the question I'd like to ask.
Well, through the line ministry, VMCOTT has to make representation to the line ministry, and the line ministry will make the necessary recommendations to the Ministry of Finance on the urgency of this matter. And the budget division will review it and make some provision in the upcoming mid-year review.
Can I ask Mrs. Ramdat, the Permanent Secretary or Deputy Permanent Secretary, to comment on this matter? Mrs. Ramdat, can you unmute?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And thank you for being patient with me.
No problem.
Yes, I can assure you, as I indicated, Chair and members, and I understand you're concerned. And like you, the line ministry is also concerned because that is a grave indictment against a company for not making their statutory obligations. I can tell you, we have mediated many discussions among entities, as I indicated before in my discussion this morning, with entities that owed to monies and funds to VMCOTT. We have been mediating on a continuous basis, and hence VMCOTT is able to get some funding from the debts owed to them. That is one. Secondly, we recognize the obligations of the company to make their statutory payments. And I can assure you that we will work closely with them to make representations to the Ministry of Finance for additional funding to ensure that the company meets their obligation. Thank you, Chair.
Madam Deputy Permanent Secretary, I would like to ask that a report be submitted to this committee within the next 2 weeks to outlining what steps have been taken to rectify this anomaly. And I would like your good self to use your good office to work very closely with the Ministry of Finance and VMCOTT to ensure that an allocation is made within that period when that report is being submitted, to have all outstanding monies owed to the NIB, the entity that is responsible for receiving health surcharge, as well as the Board of Inland Revenue, not to mention the Green Fund and the business levy, that attempts be made to get those payments addressed within the next 2 weeks, and to ensure that henceforth there will not be a repeat of this scandal. This is unacceptable. This is inexcusable, and this is indefensible. And I call on your good self to move with post haste in having this matter immediately rectified and submit a report in writing to the secretary of this committee, because we'll be monitoring this. So we will want to get a report from you on our recommendation as to how this matter could be addressed in the interest of the company, in the interest of all employees, and in the interest of those entities that rely on those submission of funds for goods and services that the Minister of Finance has to deliver to the people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. So I ask you to really execute this matter and to report in writing within 2 weeks. I now turn over to Rushton Paré, who has been bearing with me as I prosecute these matters. So Mr. Paré, you can now intervene.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I must say that you've been doing quite a fantastic job so far. I have no issue giving way for your work so far. And I want to again welcome all our guests and thank you very much for the submissions that you would have made. I have a few comments and a couple of questions that are going to be directed to the Deputy PS of the Ministry of Works and Ms. Mohammed from the Ministry of Finance. Now, one of the functions of this committee really is at some point in time to make the necessary recommendations at the level of the Parliament to fix problems that we see in any of these state agencies. Now, to both Ms. Ramdat and Ms. Mohammed, in reading all the documents, I understand that the Ministry of Works has oversight because of the fact that VMCOTT sits within your line ministry, just like PTSC and highways divisions and so on. And from the Ministry of Finance side, your oversight is in looking at the operations of VMCOTT based on the manual, the state operation manual, to make sure that all the necessary fiduciary responsibility regulations and obligations are being managed. Now, having listened to what VMCOTT has said so far for the morning, very quickly, would either or both of you tell this committee whether you are happy with the performance of VMCOTT so far in terms of the issues that we are seeing is stretched for almost over a decade. And I know some of you would have been new, you would have inherited issues, but I have seen no change in any of the performance-related statistics of VMCOTT over that time. Is the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Works and Transport happy with the performance of VMCOTT? And perhaps an explanation of your response. Very short, briefly, and quickly.
Yes, Ministry of Finance have to be followed by the Ministry of Works and Transport. Ministry of Finance, is the director there?
Yes.
Yes, can you respond
yes,
to?
Chairman.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. But the Ministry of Finance has noted all the challenges that VMCOTT has been undergoing over the decade. And a number of proposals were put forward for the restructuring of the organization. And as the Deputy PS in Works said, they were also looking at a strategic partnership. So the ministry still looking at other ways that to improve the performance of VMCOTT. The company themselves have come forward with a plan to expand their mandate and going into the private sector, seeking business in that way to improve their performance. And the ministry, along with its line ministry, are looking at the company's proposal to see how it will enhance their performance going forward. Thank you.
Yes. May I invite the Permanent Secretary in Ministry of Works and Transport to respond to Mr. Rushton Paré's question?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And Member Paré. As I have been saying all morning, we do recognize the challenges that VMCOTT face as the line ministry. And you ask the question, what the line ministry have been doing so far. We have been working as a mediator to recover debts owed to VMCOTT. We have been mediating discussions with the Ministry of Finance, with Cabinet, as well as with other entities. We have also explored other strategies, and we have worked with VMCOTT to re-engineer their business processes so that they could become viable and come out of this status that they are in right now. The challenge, no one foresee what was going to happen, and we now face COVID-19 pandemic. So while we are working to become viable with VMCOTT as the line ministry, we have another challenge that is facing us. Notwithstanding that, VMCOTT have re-engineered their services to include the private sector as well as the public sector, and to re-engineer their rebranding actually. And as I think Chair and Member, you would have gotten a copy of the strategic business plan for 2020 to 2025 that clearly indicates where VMCOTT wishes to go. And we will work alongside VMCOTT to ensure that they become viable. Further, we also operate on policy directive. So I cannot say what will be the future policy on VMCOTT. I can safely tell you what we have done thus far in exploring different strategies to ensure VMCOTT becomes viable. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for the responses. And in my respectful view, both responses tell me that neither of you are happy with the performance of VMCOTT. And I will leave that question there. In perusing both documents, the strongest words that I have pulled out of your responses in terms of your oversight, both ministries, and these words are remind and encourage. So in your documents, any to and fro with the board and the management, based on your submission, the strongest words that both ministries who have oversight can provide is to remind and encourage. So in my view, remind and encourage, I do not know if that is sufficient in terms of your oversight. So my question now is remind and encourage in terms of your interaction with the board and the management. Is that sufficient to give you, the ministries who have oversight over VMCOTT, enough teeth to lead and direct VMCOTT to a better future?
Yes. Permanent Secretary, and then the Ministry of Finance Director.
Thank you, Member. So you said what came out of our submission is remind, and I hope that I could have changed your mind in what I have been saying. So we have not just been reminding, we have been working along with VMCOTT to implement strategies to become viable. So I beg to disagree with you, Member Barry, that we are not just reminding. And yes, agreed, Chair and Member, we do recognize that VMCOTT do have many challenges, and hence the reason we have been exploring, along with the government, the strategic partnership of the public-private partnership to enhance the company's viability. I hope, Member Parry, that I am responding to you. If not, you can permit me to submit to you in writing if you think I am not responding to you in terms of your question.
Yes,
go ahead. I'm happy.
Yes.
I'm happy with the response. I can only question what you have submitted in the document. I will not overstep my role here as a member of this committee by assuming things within your ministry. And I just want to draw the Ministry of Finance response to question 10. And question 10 said, what is the role of the permanent secretary in ensuring that financial statements and data and so on is submitted? And in the response said that the role is to remind. And in a response to our question 9, again, the Ministry of Finance, in one of your response, the response went like this: investments continue to remind and encourage. So as I'm saying is that based on my reading, I felt that remind and encourage was a little too weak in terms of putting your hand in VMCOTT, which is so way off the beat, and I felt that something a little more stronger has to happen. So again, reading these submissions, is it correct for me to say that the board of directors and the management of VMCOTT is solely responsible for the situation that they're in? Because if I were to refer back to remind and encourage, and I'm assuming that you are reminding and encouraging over the last 10 years, where VMCOTT finds itself with. And while I accept for the last year, we have had to deal with the issues of COVID-19, I cannot accept that for the years previous to that, we would have had a similar situation. It has only become worse because of COVID-19. But are you saying that outside of encourage and remind, the situation at VMCOTT lies solely in the actions and the activities of the board of directors and the management of VMCOTT?
Anyone can answer, permanent secretary or the director.
Okay, member, those were very strong statements that you made, and I do recognize your concerns, and I thank you. I always tell you, I always say to all these committees, I am grateful to be in front of these committees because sometimes we operate and we execute our business operations, and it's good to have an external entity to review what we have been doing. So in my view, I wouldn't say that the viability or the operations solely lies on the board of VMCOTT as well as their staff. The line ministry also have a role in monitoring how they execute their business and how they execute policy directives from the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So I wouldn't say that it's the sole responsibility is on the board of directors. While yes, the operations are the sole responsibility of the board of directors, the line ministry serves as a monitoring entity to monitor the business processes and the policy implementation of the entity. I hope I am answering you, member.
All right. Roshan, may I actually just hold the next round so I can now invite Amrita, who has been very, very patiently awaiting us to invite her to come on stream to really deal with some other areas that she would like to clarify. So I now want to invite Amrita Deonarine to pose your questions at this time to the officials.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I move into the financial issues and the audited financial statements, I just have one follow-up question to the Permanent Secretary. You keep saying that the Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Works and Transport, you keep saying that you feel strong about the company eventually becoming a viable institution in terms of at least breaking even or even covering a profit at some point in time based on the 2020 to 2025 strategic plan. So my question to you then is, given that the company has been making a loss since 2013 and the accumulated losses range from 63.8 million in 2013 and it goes straight up to 91 million in 2020, and it has been increasing consistently. There has been no gaps where over those years where the profit, the accumulated losses has decreased. So with an accumulated loss of 91 million in this 2020 to 2025 plan, strategic plan, on an annual basis, how much do you expect to reduce these accumulated loss on an annual basis based on this plan that you are confident will turn around the position of VMCOTT?
Oh, sorry. I have to keep remembering to unmute. Member, if you permit me, is it okay that I have the chair of VMCOTT respond to this?
Sure.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, Lieutenant Colonel Bennett.
Mr. Chair, I am here. You have my undivided attention. And in response to the question, let me first of all indicate a little history of VMCOTT. Your government established VMCOTT in 2000. It became active in 2001. And in that period, from 2001 to approximately 2010, it was getting a subvention of $30 million and made no profit. Subsequent to that, the subvention was reduced to 14 million and then 12 million. And in 2016, it was reduced to 10 million annually and making no profit. The board of directors, myself, and the new management team inherited a lot of mismanagement by the predecessors who were responsible for the function of VMCOTT. But I must say that VMCOTT's establishment was for a very practical reason. It was a vision of the then government of the day to establish a mechanical services agency to treat with all of the vehicles that were falling under the government's domain or responsibility. So if I may say, you have various ministries and you have other public sector agencies that are granted monies for the purchase and for the maintenance and repairs of vehicles annually in their budget allocation. These people, with the exception of the police service and PTSC, all of them chose to do their repairs and maintenance elsewhere, siphoning the allocations to other uncertified mechanical services agencies throughout Trinidad and Tobago. So at one point in time, you would have had vehicles on the side of the road under a mango tree somewhere being repaired. I must admit that the genesis of VMCOTT was a brilliant idea. Debt collection, it is not a responsibility of VMCOTT. It relies on the Ministry of Finance and the respective ministries and our line ministry to assist. And within the last 4 years, we've been getting great assistance from them. Now, the member indicated the accumulated losses of 91 million. Bear in mind, that is over 20 years. And bear in mind that the subventions then were 30 million annually for the first 10 years of that. Now, there had to be some rationale behind establishing VMCOTT. It is incumbent on the very ministries to respect Cabinet's decision, and therein lies the problem. No one is pushing the button to insist that the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of National Security, with all of its various divisions, would send their vehicles to VMCOTT for maintenance. So what has happened within the last 5 years is that we have a new management teams with the appropriate qualification for the posts. We have embarked on new business models. In 2018, we rebranded our organization, and we therefore have 3 subsets of VMCOTT. We have the auto shore and the auto stop. And these are mainly designed to treat with the general public as well as those public officials and ministries and other vehicles or entities that would come to VMCOTT. One of the things we've had is a significant problem with debt collection and reconciliation. And the largest organization that owes us money right now is the Trinidad Tobago Police Service, which from time to time seems to be above the law. So that the $14 million they owe us at present, nobody is able to make a decision to say, go into the TTPS's allocation, which is in excess of 900 million, and take out 20 million or 14 million and pay VMCOTT. If that was something that was done, VMCOTT will be solvent, viable, and not depend on the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago's government funding of subvention to survive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
But so then, therefore, I go back to my question again. Your strategic plan, which is stretched across the next 4 years, 2020, because 2020 has gone already, is any part of that plan geared towards trying to reduce the accumulated losses? Because I understand the position in terms of the outstanding debt and so on. But going forward, as part of this plan, on an annual basis, what is your target to reduce this accumulated loss? Give me a value. You must have a value.
We have set a goal of 5% annually towards reducing that.
Okay, so with the goal of 5% annually, you still in 2025 would not be in a position where you could consider yourself as breaking even at least. That's what I was trying to understand. Because initially, when the permanent secretary spoke, she indicated that by 2025, the company would become a viable company. And that is where I was seeking my clarification. Now, in terms of recovering the outstanding debt, now I understand that the permanent secretary, together with your good self and the team, has been engaging in a lot of mediation, a lot of communication tactics, and so on. Outside of that, what else have you all been doing to help reduce or help these ministries or state agencies to meet their obligations?
I am not the person who should be answering that question, because the commitment of the state agencies to reduce their commitments to VMCOTT is dependent on the ministries themselves and the application to the Ministry of Finance in allocating funding to take care of that. However, VMCOTT, on the other hand, has embarked on new business programs. We've embarked on aggressive marketing. We've reduced our staff. We have progressively moved from our performance levels have increased internally. We have new processes and SOPs that we've been using to increase our performance. And we have been using these to help ourselves with attaining larger clientele.
Okay, so thank you. And I know you would have alluded to that in your submission because you said that you started to offer services to private enterprises as well as members of the public, right? So could you tell me how much additional money did this initiative generated on an annual basis?
I can't tell you that offhand, but I can give you an approximate figure, which I am getting from my finance manager. Within the last year, approximately $600,000.
$600,000.
Yes.
On an annual basis.
Yeah. I said within the last year.
Within the last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could always do the research and get back to you, and that's new business. And we could get back to you with that in writing.
Okay, so part of the new business strategy is to offer services to private enterprises and also members of the public. And I also heard the permanent secretary alluded to the fact that consideration is being given to some sort of strategic partnership to expand the mandate to improve performance. Is there anything else that VMCOTT is resorting to?
Aggressive marketing.
Aggressive marketing. Okay. I want to move on to, no, you did say a lot of discussion went around to discussing the improvements in business processes of VMCOTT. And based on my perusal of the submission, it seems to me that there seems to be a clear distinction between the invoices that VMCOTT has and the invoices that PTSC has and the TTPS has. Do you have any comments with respect to that?
Reconciliation exercises have been conducted extensively. As the PS mentioned earlier, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, under the Commissioner of Police, established a committee that worked in collaboration with the VMCOTT executive management team and did a significant reconciliation exercise, which that is one of the things that we have done. Notwithstanding that, there were instances under past management where these things were not sorted out, but we have improved our technology and we've gone into using new software programs to give us better and more quality in our finance department with regard to invoicing and keeping proper records.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. But let me be a little more direct, right? In your submission, you said that according to your records, the TTPS owes you all $15.6 million, and the PTSC owes $11.85 million. However, PTSC has indicated that their records show that they owe you all $6.4 million, and TTPS so far agreed to $2.445 million. Do you have physical invoices, documents to prove that you all actually are owed $15.6 million? Because clearly your records are reflecting, your accounts are reflecting that that is the amount that you all are being owed by the TTPS and 11.85 by PTSC. Could you comment on that?
I can say that we do have records to that effect, and our audited accounts will also reflect that.
Okay, so then what is being done about this confusion between TTPS and you all? Because clearly there is a lot of money that if you have records and TTPS saying that they only have proof that they still owe you all so much, what is being done? All the mediation that is taking place, is this being addressed? How is this being addressed? What is the plan to recover this additional almost $7 million? Because I didn't get that from your submission. I don't know if there's a plan, because what I saw in the submission is that step 4 of this committee has concluded the part that says the TTPS will make payments of each batch of invoices verified as legitimately outstanding with within a fortnight of its verification, I see that step has not taken place, and to some extent the submission indicates that the committee is somewhat dismantled and no longer doing its work. So could somebody clarify for me what is taking place, what is being done to solve the situation?
If I may say, the Ministry of Works and Transport has been ably assisting us in our attempts to recover monies owed to us. At the ministerial level, that is something outside of our purview, and we have been getting support from our line ministry.
Okay, so support in what way? Is it legal support? Is it what type of support? Because it doesn't seem to me that could you tell me if the Ministry of Works and Transport could go and tell the TTPS, pay VMCOTT this money now? Is that the situation? Could that happen? I don't think that's legal right now. Is that legal?
Well, you've just answered it. But I have to rely on my line ministry for their support because I can't go and tell the commissioner to pay me now. You answered the question, and it's definitely outside of our purview. And I can assure you that we work closely with our line ministry that has oversight to make that happen. Of course, the PS may want to expand on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Chair, if you permit me, member, as I indicated in my earlier responses, we have met with Ministry of Finance, with TTPS, as well as PTSC, in working out strategies on how to repay this debt to VMCOTT. And so far, that meeting had taken place in 2019. And since 2019, we have been mediating with these entities to repay. And as I indicated before, the TTPS have made attempts to make payments. It's coming slow, but surely they are making payments.
May I just, before Amrita, and continue, may I just indicate that from the evidence before our committee, and I'm talking about the statement made by the chairman of this corporation, VMCOTT. He described the TTPS as a law unto itself. I don't know what the chairman means by that. What I can tell you is that we have a letter dated the 14th of January, 2021. This is 30 days ago, just 20 days ago rather, in which the ministry in which TTPS is making it abundantly clear. It is signed by the Commissioner of Police, Amrita, do you know, right? And Lieutenant Colonel Bennett. This is the 14th of January. And I want to just read for the record so it will be made pellucidly clear that the confusion that rages on lies clearly from what I'm seeing here, unless otherwise advised. It lies with the record keeping of VMCOTT. Hear what we are being told by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, headed by the Commissioner of Police. And I quote, "The main issue is that the TTPS, to pay any outstanding invoices," this is the Commissioner of Police speaking, dating as far back as 2001, VMCOTT needs to provide proper supporting documentation. This includes the TTPS job sheets and the VMCOTT worksheet for each outstanding invoice. This has been the position of the TTPS from the first reconciliation, and it's still the main issue that needs to be resolved. And I'll just close this quotation by reading this last sentence. The TTPS cannot make payments for outstanding invoices without substantiating documentation. Madam Permanent Secretary, I think before I turn the meeting back to Mrs. Dionarine, you would need to clear the air on this matter, because the TTPS has made it very clear that this matter falls squarely into the lap of the Ministry of Works and Transport, and more importantly, into the lap of VMCOTT. There is an absence of proper record keeping, and that is what is causing the confusion in terms of meeting financial obligations to the TTPS. So, Madam PS, of the Ministry of Works and Transport, may I ask you to intervene at this time and to ask you if you are in receipt of correspondence from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, where they are claiming they are not prepared to pay any monies to the VMCOTT unless you have invoices to substantiate those documents. Can you clarify for us?
Chair, while you were talking, I was checking on my desk and our files. This ministry have not received any correspondence from Commissioner of Police indicating as such what you have stated here. I must tell you that the Commissioner of Police had appointed a committee to work with VMCOTT to review the VMCOTT's records, and hence the reason they were able to make a payment, and as promised by them, to follow up with other payments. So in terms of your statement, what you have just read, I am not aware of that.
Yeah, well, you may not be aware of it because it was addressed to the Parliament. But what I'm making very clear to you on behalf of this committee, that it is very clear from what we have before us, that is this committee, the PAEC, the Commissioner of Police, who was asked to respond to this matter that is before us, has made it pellucidly clear that the TTPS is not prepared and cannot make payments for outstanding invoices without substantiating documentation. So what I'm saying is that what the police service is saying is that VMCOTT is asking them to make payments dating back to 2001, but they have no substantive documentation to back up those things, and they cannot make these payments even though VMCOTT is producing invoices. The police service is saying, where is the document? You are telling me to pay, but I can't pay because I have no documentation. So all I'm saying, PS, is that there appears to be a conundrum developing here where demands are being made by VMCOTT of the police to pay, and the police is saying, listen, we are prepared to pay, but we want to see documentation, and we are not seeing documentation. And that is where there appears to be some challenges. So we will rest our case temporarily on this matter, and I'll ask Mrs. Dionarine to continue with her line of questioning. Dionarine, Mrs. Dionarine?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so I will pause on this issue for the time being, and I will just move on to, in your response, you also indicated, now I know a lot of focus is being placed on TTSC and TTPS, but also you indicated that there are some funds that is being owed by the Ministry of Health, and a figure was not provided. Could you, perhaps I missed an appendix, but could you provide us with the amount that is being owed from the Ministry of Health?
I would refer your question to Natasha. Natasha, can you respond?
Yes, I think
Yes,
that would be
member.
appropriate.
Yes, member, we will submit it to you in writing. We'll pull all the data and submit it to you in writing.
Okay, so in addition with that, would you, at the top of your head, be able to tell us how has Ministries of Health payments developed since the COVID-19 pandemic? Has it been increasing? And also, could you give us in writing the amount that has been paid so far? The amount.
Yes, we will, but just at the top of my head, I know they were owing a debt of approximately 1.2 million. They did make some payment and it was reduced to about 700,000 approximately. We still have not received any outstanding payments towards that outstanding debt of approximately 700,000.
Right. Okay. So I'm not too sure who would be in the best position to answer this, but it may very well be you, Ms. Prince at VMCOTT. So you, in your response, you indicated several measures that you all have undertaken to try and recover this money, right? These outstanding payments. But could you tell me, and some of it with respect to following up, let me see. Right, so one of the things that you all implemented is that you have a policy now where any jobs conducted that you must, a 40% deposit must be made. Is that
Yes.
across the board?
It depends on the value. Once any job exceed 8,000 in repairs, of course, you have to make a down payment to start the repairs.
Okay.
Yes,
And
anything exceeding $8,000.
right, and how has state enterprises been complying with this?
We have been compliant thus far, especially with those jobs that cost a lot.
Okay, so tell me something. Have you all integrated any sort of cloud-based software to keep track of the invoicing and the payments and so on? So, for example, like QuickBooks.
Yes, we have made some changes because we realized we had some issues with the fleet management software and the accounting software. They were a bit outdated. We have been working with other financial institutions to get the best software, and we have acquired it thus far. So right now we are using QuickBooks in our finance department, and we have a new fleet management software called Fuse 5, which gives us more data, customer data, and to enable us to produce accurate invoicing in a timely manner.
So tell me something. So then now that you have a cloud-based software where you have everything in real time, how frequently are you all conducting reconciliation exercises to help reduce the accounts receivable or to monitor the accounts receivable turnover?
That is being done monthly. Those reconciliations are being done monthly, yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chair, I would pause here for now.
All right. May I? Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Yarai. Let me continue with Natasha Prince. Your staff turnover seemed to be very swift and rapid. In 2015, you had a 20% staff turnover rate. 2016, 13%. 2017, 9%. 2018, 30%. And 2019, 7%. Now, based on VMCOTT's written submission, VMCOTT has an approved human resource policy, which was implemented in 2004. However, a revised version is currently in draft form. Now, could you advise this committee what guidelines are in place to ensure transparency in the recruitment, dismissal, and promotion of persons respectively?
Okay. So in the recruitment process, of course, we more focus on the technical staff to support our core function. So we have different levels, which is Tech 1, Tech 2, and Tech 3, and we have the qualifications for those 3 levels of technical expertise. Also, in the recruitment process of the support staff, wherever there's a need, then we put forward the application for recruitment, and we follow the human resource guidelines that is valid from inception of the company, and we go ahead and recruit those positions. Now, we haven't been recruiting any significant amount of staff for the past 2 years, reason being because of our financial constraint and because of the loss of course, our main client, which is TTPS. There's not a need for these technical staff because we are already going through this financial constraint. It's a bit difficult to keep those staff on our payroll, considering that we're not getting the revenue in a timely manner. Hence the reason we have to, of course, downsize and constantly keep revisiting that human resource policy wherever. So if the business picks up and we start again influx of work from different ministries and so on, definitely we will revise our human resource recruitment policy and, of course, employ people when required. Chair, I'm not hearing you.
No, sorry about that. Are you hearing me now?
I'm hearing you now, sir.
Yeah. When do you expect to complete this draft phase of your HR policy? Because the last time you had a proper HR policy and which was implemented was in 2004. Since then, you have a revised version, which is in draft form. When is this draft supposed to be completed?
Well, it's supposed to be completed, we say, in the next 6 months. And because the dynamics of the business is changing, we realize that there's more information required on the human resource aspect to input into this draft before we present it to the board of directors for approval and implementation.
You have a small staff of about, is it just about 70 or 80?
About 80.
So why would it take you all these decades? Now, I know you are new, as you said, to the position that you currently occupy, although you have been with VMCOTT. Is it from 2010?
2004, so April this year will be 17 years.
Now, why would it take VMCOTT? Is it, I'm seeing 17 years to operate along the HR lines on a draft policy basis? So you're recruiting on a draft policy platform. You are dismissing on a draft policy platform, and you are also promoting on that said platform. Explain why it has taken 17 years and we are yet to have a proper, well-defined policy in the HR zone.
Well, Chair, this is a draft policy that was done with the past management, past CEOs, and it remained in draft stage. What I'm doing in my capacity, because of my resources, is a bit limited right now, but we're working on it. We are now reviewing that draft and adding to it before we present it to the board of directors for approval.
Yeah, but Madam CEO, you're talking about 17 years. This is 17 years. And you're now telling this committee it will take you another 6 months to complete your draft into a final document. All right. In the meantime, can you submit to us guidelines, the guidelines that you have in writing that will deal with recruitment, dismissal, and promotion?
Definitely, I will submit that in writing.
Right.
Yes,
and then how soon do you anticipate? You said in 6 months' time, we'll have a complete.
6 months.
Yes, thank you.
6 months, completed and approved.
Yes, thank you. Now, between 2015 and 2019, your staff turnover ranged from as low as 7% in 2019 to a high of 30% in 2018. Now, I would like to clarify the following. One, what was the reason for the significant turnover over the period identified? And why was it as high as 30% in 2018?
Well, what we did was we were restructuring the organization. Of course, we want to fulfill our mandate and what is in our strategic plan for 2020 to 2025. So we needed to do some restructuring. Also, because of, I mentioned before, because our low cash flow back then, we had no other choice but to, of course, retrench because we didn't have the funding to pay our salaries in time. So when we did the restructuring and we start to fulfill the part of our mandate, when we're not getting any state vehicles to fix, we start to fulfill the other part of our mandate in terms of seeking the private sector, getting them involved, putting out new products and services. What we decided to do then is contract workers because we needed workers then, and we decided to contract workers to fulfill that time of need.
Now, you said that you had to retrench.
Yes, we had to retrench. How many
workers, how many employees, I should say, were retrenched in that particular period?
20.
And how many workers were brought in on contract during that period?
That was in 2019, about 10. About 10 employees.
So you brought in 10 during that period.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a decision that is to retrench directed from the Ministry of Works and Transport, or was it purely an internal decision?
No, it was not an internal decision. The ministry is aware of our cash constraints. And also it was a recommendation made by the GSC as well when we approached the GSC, that was in 2017, that when they look into the operating cost of VMCOTT with the human resource aspect of it, that recommendation was made that we reduce staff. And what we have been doing onward is that we have doubled up on our functions. So we have like one person doing two functions. For example, our HSC, before we had 2 HSC officers, now we have 1. And she fulfilled all the health and safety aspect pertaining to all 3 locations. So it's more economical and feasible, especially with the present financial situation that we're in right now.
You said at JSC, what is it, joint? Which
the Joint Select Committee? Yes, well, we went to the Joint Select Committee into the operations of VMCOTT. That was in 2017. I was the operations manager then, and that was one of the recommendations made by the GSC, because we have it in writing as well, that we definitely look into the human resource to reduce staff and, of course, up the operating part.
What was the cost? What was the cost?
I don't have it on hand right now, but I can submit that to you in writing. I cannot remember it at the top of my head, but I can submit it to you in writing.
Could you tell us also, maybe from the top of your head and in writing, how many persons actually left the company between 2015 to 2020? Or in 2020, I should say.
I can only account for the 20 and we had about 2 that retired. I'll have to get that data and submit it to you in writing, Chair.
All right, good. Now, you could also indicate and put it in writing, those workers who would have left between the period 2015 and 2020.
No problem.
Were they immediately replaced?
No, they were not replaced. We just double up on the functions. As I give an example of the HSC person, we had 2 HSC officers to carry the functions for 3 locations. We now down to 1, right? We had about 3 or 4 members of staff in our HR department. We cut that down to 2 persons. Yeah, so we just tailor the human resource to work with the actual operations that we have on hand until things improve.
Would you share with this committee whether the persons who are in place at this time in the organization, their skill set and qualification really equate with the kind of requirements needed by the company to really bring about the transformation and the new drive and direction that is so desperately required by this organization? Are you satisfied with, as a CEO, with the match? Or would you say there's a mismatch between the personnel, their skill set and qualification, and what is needed by the organization to make the transformation, rebranding necessary?
Well, coming out of the restructuring exercise, as I mentioned earlier on, we found the correct mix and match of employees to fit the job descriptions. Training is ongoing at our organization because we have to maintain our core function and we have to remain competitive in this automotive industry. Training is ongoing. So we have specialists, which is the workshops supervisor. We have tech trees that constantly train the tech 2s and the tech 1s. So I will say that I am happy with the caliber of employees that we have with the required skill set to do the job on hand.
Now, are you aware that some of the people who might have been dismissed or retrenched, when you look at the qualifications they had, with the qualifications with the qualifications of personnel that replaced them, either via contract or those who were in the company, their skill set was of a lesser level than the qualified persons who actually were removed from the organization? Are you aware of this?
I cannot say that because I'm more focused on the core function, which is the technical team. The technical team is the team that makes the money for the organization. So the focus is there. And I must say, if it's in the support staff, when we did the restructure, then that skill set is not required because we have double up on functions, as I indicated earlier. But because of we focus on the core functions, we must say that the qualifications required, they are all qualified in that area. And training is ongoing for each and everyone. So I don't see an issue there in terms of the people that were sent that their qualifications were higher. The caliber of people we have, they have the same qualifications and more as well.
So as CEO, you would tell this committee that you are absolutely satisfied with the level of skilled personnel that you currently have within that organization called VMCOTT in order to carry out its mandate of transformation, rebranding, etc. You are quite happy with the skill sets that you now have at your disposal to make that journey forward towards transformation. And as you said, rebranding, you are happy?
Yes, I am happy, I am comfortable thus far. But as we explore the markets, which we are doing, I know that definitely we will have to pursue going back out there and finding the right skill set to add to the organization for us to fulfill our mandate.
Now, in 2016, VMCOTT made a decision to offer its services to private enterprises, as well as members of the public.
Yes.
That's correct?
Correct.
How much additional money did this initiative generate each year based on this decision? 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020.
Right. So, Chair, let me just give you a quick brief history. Although that mandate was there, we were not actually practicing the mandate. We started from 2017 when I was placed in this position with the new board. I expressed that we need to fulfill the mandate, and in order to do so, we need to go to the private sector. So we started with rebranding the company. Yes, we changed the logo and everything. We put a car over it. There's a gear wheel to indicate, to show us that's our brand, to put our brand out there. So we launched 3 brands onto this VMCOTT umbrella. The corporate VMCOTT, which remains, that is for the state entities. We launched our service brand, which is tailored to the private customers, which is VMCOTT Auto Stop. And then we have VMCOTT Auto Show, which contains the CNG conversion, the fossil fuel, hybrid, and of course, electrification. Right? So we launched those brands, and of course, we use that to target the private market. So we started in 2018, and of course, it was a bit challenging getting rid of the stigma of VMCOTT to where the public is concerned, because the public still was not aware of what VMCOTT do, and that mandate to go out to the public. So it was a work in progress to get the brand out there. So what we started to do is launch products and services. We form a membership club and put out different products to put the brand out there to attract private customers. Then we were hit. By the time we launched that was mid-2018. 2019, we made approximately about 200,000. That's private customers alone. And then 2020 is when, we made 600,000, between 200 and 600,000. And in 2020, which is COVID, we expect it to be a really slow time, a downturn in the economy, we made 600,000. So that is a clear indication that the service brand is working for us. But I just want to share that I just ask that you and your members just lobby for VMCOTT. The private sector is not enough. We need a mix, we need a balance. And if we get the state entities to come to VMCOTT to utilize our services, our fleet management services, and we have that balance of both private and public, next time we come to this committee, it will be a testimony of success, and that is what we're working towards.
Madam CEO, can you tell this committee whether there is a cabinet mandate which would encourage, I would say, or maybe impose an obligation on all state entities using, of course, vehicles and other means of transport, whether it is a ministry, a statutory agency or authority, or another government-supported or uncontrolled entity. Is there a cabinet note that you can refer this committee to that mandates these ministries to really conduct repairs at VMCOTT, seeing VMCOTT is a state entity? Is there any such? Because your chairman, who apparently is in the same room with you, indicated earlier that this is a matter of grave concern, that these entities ought to be coming to VMCOTT, but they are not coming. So I just want to know if there's a mandate.
No, there's not a mandate, Chair. There's not a mandate for all the public bodies to utilize VMCOTT services. However, we are hoping that that can change, and we can lobby on our behalf to make it possible.
Now, is there any effort by where's Mr. Bennett, Lieutenant Colonel Bennett? Lieutenant, may I ask you directly?
Sure.
What efforts is the board making to encourage the cabinet to promote such a policy so that we can get the state sector and the various agencies falling under the state sector to get their vehicles repaired by VMCOTT? Is there any attempt by your board to encourage the cabinet to go in that direction?
Chair, if I may be permitted, I just want to read for you that Cabinet by minute number 527 of 2012 reaffirmed its decision taken in minute number 481 of 2009 as it related to VMCOTT's mandate, whereby VMCOTT is a central controlling agency providing fleet management service to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and the public sector as a whole. That any private firm that is contracted to repair and maintain vehicle owned and operated by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service must first be certified and approved by VMCOTT. Further to that, there were other cabinet notes which directed that VMCOTT be referred to the Vehicle Management Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago Limited as a fleet service provider. That is something that has been out there, it's been put out there, and we have been making efforts to our line ministry, to our minister. And I must say, in this instance, the very words of encouragement coming from our line minister and his many efforts at cabinet has given us the momentum to continue to plow ahead in making this company new, well-respected, and a viable business.
So there is no cabinet mandate where the cabinet says all state entities within the public sector shall have their vehicles repaired at VMCOTT. Is there such a mandate compelling or mandating, or is it just something that is flexible in the context of what you have just read?
Well, VMCOTT has the mandate, but I am not sure that state entities have been given that mandate or are observing the cabinet's directive.
And what efforts are being made by your board to ensure that if what you have just said is accurate, to ensure that these companies, these state agencies rather, observe that mandate? What is being done by your board?
The board has directed the management of VMCOTT to write and inform every single line ministry of VMCOTT's mandate and inviting them to take the opportunity to maximize the services that we offer. Outside of that, we have been working, the board and myself have been working closely with the Minister of Works and Infrastructure this time, Senator, the Honorable Sinanan, with regard to getting his support in making inroads into the cabinet decision with regard to VMCOTT. And he himself, on numerous occasions, have stood up in Parliament and indicated that VMCOTT can be viable if it gets the support from other line ministries. So we work together to make that happen.
Okay.
Outside of that, we are constrained by what we can do to influence cabinet.
May I ask, as you are there in that position where you are now, can you advise this committee whether all TTPS vehicles are repaired by VMCOTT, or whether VMCOTT, according to what you have just read, has certified garages that you have approved for the TTPS to use because of your constraints and challenges in meeting your mandate in repairing those vehicles for the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Can you clarify for us?
On direction of Cabinet, VMCOTT was able to certify 3 garages external to VMCOTT to assist VMCOTT in the preventative maintenance of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service vehicles. This was a directive that came to VMCOTT in 2009 via Cabinet Note. That was done. It is not clear whether the TTPS have been using those 3 certified garages. I'm unable to state clearly, but I'm sure if VMCOTT approaches those certified garages today, we might be told otherwise. However, I am unable to see whether other garages have been certified, but I know for a fact that VMCOTT was directed by Cabinet. We drew up the criterion for the purpose of certification, and it was conducted. Those garages paid a sum of approximately $5,000 for each one of those recorded certification processes, and that was conducted in 2009, approximately 2010.
Now, as you're saying, Mr. Chairman, no garages can repair vehicles belonging to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service without the certification and approval of VMCOTT. That is what you have just read from the records, on the records. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I'd like to have that noted in the records, that that is a Cabinet directive.
Now, what I want to ask you, have you certified and approved other garages for vehicles of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to be repaired at, outside of the 3 that you said you were directed by the Cabinet in a note of 2009 to so do?
To the best of my knowledge, no, sir.
But can you share with this committee whether VMCOTT is aware that outside of your certification and approval, the TTPS has been conducting repairs to their vehicles outside of the Cabinet mandate?
To the best of my knowledge, as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, yes, because I've observed police vehicles, marked police vehicles at various garages throughout Trinidad and Tobago, inclusive of Toyota and other places, but I'm not sure if they're certified. In the instance of new vehicles, once there's a warranty period, the TTPS will enjoy the service under the warranty. Outside of the warranty, then they may be subjected to go to any garage that is not certified as directed by Cabinet.
Can you tell us, Chairman, can you share with us what percentage of vehicles from the TTPS would come to VMCOTT for repairs?
At this time, there are no vehicles coming to VMCOTT for repairs from the TTPS. The only branch of the TTPS that enjoys the services of VMCOTT is the Transit Police Unit, responsible for managing the bus routes, and other traffic instances.
So has this matter been drawn to the attention of your line ministry so that cabinet would be aware of this development and therefore either reissue a new cabinet note mandating that the TTPS, direct all their vehicles for repairs to VMCOTT, or whether, for instance, the matter, as far as you are concerned, is in the graveyard, buried and properly dead. No more vehicles from the TTPS come into VMCOTT.
Chair, respectfully, if I may, I received the document addressed to the chairman of the board of directors and a copy to the CEO from the Commissioner of Police, indicating that he was directed by the Minister of National Security and the Minister of Finance to send all of TTPS vehicles to VMCOTT. In my response to the Commissioner of Police, I indicated to him that there were no systems set up in place. We had no information from the Commissioner of Police as to the category of vehicle and the status of the functioning of those vehicles for us to prepare to receive these vehicles. I wrote the Commissioner indicating that both members of the operations team of VMCOTT and the TTPS must sit and work out what is the status of vehicles, what is the form of payment, how are we going to ascertain and validate billing, invoicing, and payment. And I have gotten no response from the Commissioner of Police. That letter was copied to my line minister, it was copied to the Honorable Minister of Finance, and it was copied to the Honorable Minister of National Security. To date, some 3 months later, I have received no response from the Commissioner of Police in this regard. So I am unable to see who is servicing those police vehicles, but I have a document in my possession that says that those vehicles, all police vehicles, are to be sent to VMCOTT to be serviced or repaired.
But do you believe, do you believe, Mr. Chairman, that because of your constraints, both in terms of manpower, skill sets, because you have limited skill sets, and because of the challenges you have with your suppliers supplying materials to your organization to repair vehicles, do you think that these might have featured prominently in the decision taken by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service not to provide you, that is VMCOTT, with any vehicles for repairs?
If that was a consideration, Chair, hence the reason why we were supposed to sit together and we determine whether the vehicles that are working on the road right now are to be sent to VMCOTT for immediate service. Simple things like oil change, replace brakes, and these sorts of things would have been priority. We would have used that in our green line system. And those for major repairs, we would have had them sent from Tobago at the Tobago location, from the southern division of the police service to the south branch on Union Road, and those on the east-west corridor to VMCOTT. But no meeting took place because no one responded and no one attended the meeting. We have to sit and plan these things before they can be executed. Additionally, as you rightly pointed out, in order for us to be able to provide the repairs with services and parts for those vehicles, we have to get a list of the vehicles. And one of the things about fleet management is that you have a limited amount of vehicles. So it reduces the amount of spare parts you have to buy. But the police service has Toyota RAV4s, they have Toyota Prados, they have Toyota Hilux, they have Nissan X-Trails, they have 626, they have quite a range of vehicles. And it is not the best instance for a ministry or government organization to have such a wide range of vehicles that extends their inability to have them serviced in a timely fashion with a readily available stock of parts and spares. So those are the things that we should sit down and solidify before we go forward. But VMCOTT is ready, prepared, and capable of recruiting and selecting the best outside of there who are on the market to aid and assist in the repairs and maintenance and fleet management of any organization in the Twin Islands state of Trinidad.
I have two final questions before we begin to wind down or bring this meeting to a close. And they are: one, what would you like to recommend, or what would you like to recommend to this committee to assist, to help restore this company, which I noticed that you have a company in your list of clients called Simpson's Funeral Home. Is that true?
That's correct.
Well, I'm trying to see to what extent you can submit to this committee recommendations, either in writing, or you can give us a summary now as to how this committee can help your organization become more efficient, more effective, and more economical, so that you can carry out your mandate properly. Because if you don't, like that customer you have called Simpson's Funeral Home, your company may end up in the graveyard. So I want to ask you if you can supply us with recommendation so we can try to save you from a permanent burial.
Chair, and I greatly appreciate that you have given me the opportunity to make some recommendations. One of the things I would like to recommend off the top of my head is that the Public Accounts Committee, in its submissions to Parliament, indicate to Parliament that the survivability and the existence of VMCOTT is not just for the employees and workers of VMCOTT, but to redound to the benefit of the state, because the state puts out close to approximately $900 million annually in maintenance and repair services allocated in the budget for the respective ministries and other state entities. You see a lot of vehicles in graveyards all over Trinidad and Tobago, whether it's a ministry, a state enterprise, anything like that. Those vehicles can be reconditioned and repaired. If I may share with you, the TTPS, 2 years ago, we had some beautiful press presentations, the Commissioner and I shaking hands for a handover of X-Trails, which we refurbished. VMCOTT refurbished 62 X-Trails. An initial contract was signed between the TTPS and VMCOTT. We received $400,000. We provided them with 62, which was way more expensive than $400,000. And to date, we have not been paid for those X-Trails. But they're on the street and they're aiding and assisting the TTPS in crime fighting and crime reduction in Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, Mr. Chairman, could you put in writing for this committee's consideration as we prepare a report in the future, what are some of your recommendations that you would like the government through the Parliament to consider in making your company more viable and more successful in its future endeavors. I ask you to put in writing and submit to the secretary of our committee for the committee's consideration. I now ask Amrita Dunarai to continue. So you'll put it in writing first. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To VMCOTT, I have one question as we are discussing the operational side of things. What usually happens when you have vehicles that are unserviceable? Or are you all in any way responsible for the disposal of any state vehicles?
We are mandated by Cabinet to do fleet management services, which starts with procurement to disposal. To date, no state enterprise or any ministry has access to dispose of any vehicles on their behalf. They still use the old system of declaring the vehicle not roadworthy or no longer serviceable or no longer cost effective to be on the road. And they do their own listing and submit it for disposal. But we have the capability to do procurement to disposal. And we've done procurement in many instances. Our recent procurement is a project that we're working on with the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure with regard to putting 2 vehicles on the road for the licensing authority. So we are really capable of doing all that kind of stuff. It's just that because we are not required to, it is something that we have to mothball and leave it on the shelf for now.
All right, I think, yes, go.
My last question, Mr. Chair, if you allow me. I just asked this question as a concerned citizen because when you pass by VMCOTT in the San Fernando branch, you see a lot of abandoned vehicles with vines growing up on them, grass, and a whole set of bush taking over them. What happens to those vehicles? Are they unserviceable and therefore left there for parts to be reused, or are they for disposal?
Those vehicles belong to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. What has happened is that the facility in San Fernando area, we have allotted space for the TTPS, Mechanical Branch Services personnel, to occupy some of our offices. So we have shared space with them. And what they have been doing, they've been taking vehicles and parking them there. Those vehicles, we have no responsibility and no accountability for them. That is purely under the purview of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And they are left there to rot, deteriorate, and for vines and trees to grow out of them.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I recognize Mr. Roshan Pare.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chairman, in 2016, I was invited to the Mayaro Rio Clara Regional Corporation, where a VMCOTT garage was launched at the corporation's facility. And during that opening ceremony, the intention was that police vehicles from the Ministry of Health, the local government vehicles, all state agencies within the constituency, the idea was that their vehicles, rather than have to come to San Fernando or even Port of Spain, that those vehicles would have come to Rio Clara, that bay, which at that time I saw was, fully equipped to get services. Now, what has happened to that facility? And 2, thinking about the rationale behind it in terms of where you have state vehicles in rural communities like Rio Clara and Mayaro, that idea to put these facilities into the 14 municipal corporations lends the idea that, you can decentralize VMCOTT into some of these existing garages to help increase your revenue potential. And perhaps in terms of the police having challenges getting vehicles to San Fernando, Port of Spain, and not believing or being satisfied that they may get back their vehicles in time, they may be more inclined to come to a closer location in terms of Mayaro, Rio Claro, and Beach coming right to Rio Claro, then that could be a good thing to look at going forward. Can you comment on that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, definitely, sir. With regard to that, when we went to the Mayaro Mansalina Regional Corporation, we assisted them in setting up their facility and providing equipment. And we also assigned a member of our staff to work closely with them in purchasing and procuring parts and spares for their vehicle maintenance. The concept behind it is as you outlined, however, it never materialized. And our MOU with them expired after 2 years. It is something that we have been pursuing diligently with the Sandy Grande Regional Corporation, with the Port of Spain Corporation, Diego Martin Regional Corporation, with a view to aiding and assisting them in fleet management services, not just for them, but for municipal police and those people who have to do disaster relief management, because they have a lot of equipment in those corporations, and we're trying to assist them with that. But from time to time, the constraint is finances, because one of the things that we use for revenue earning is a management fee when we do that, because we set them up with all the new systems and we make their life as easy as possible.
So what has happened to all that investment that was made at the regional corporation in Mayaro, in terms of the fact that the MOU has expired after 2 years? What happened to that equipment? Did it return to San Fernando, Port of Spain, or is it still sitting there idling?
Oh, it is theirs. It was purchased on their behalf. They financed it.
Okay.
So now that we have given them the administrative ability and the technical training, they are now standalone unit. So they are able to do those things by themselves.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Well, Mr. Chairman and Madam CEO and other officials, I have two final questions before we bring on the curtains. Can the chairman or the CEO explain to this committee why we do not have in this parliament and before this committee the financial audited statements for VMCOTT for 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. And also, what has happened to your administrative reports that you are mandated under law? I almost going to say that VMCOTT is becoming a lawless company, but I would not say that. But you have no administrative reports since 2015, 2016. So like your audited financial statements, none in terms of administrative reports for 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So, Madam CEO, as the accounting officer, could you explain to this committee briefly what is happening with these outstanding accounts and when will the Parliament be in receipt of them, or when will you submit those to corporation sole? Madam CEO?
Chairman, the only outstanding reports that we have, the administrative report, is for 2020. All the others were submitted.
You have submitted?
From 2019. All the other administrative reports for the other years, the 2015, 2016, 2017, they were submitted.
To who?
It was sent to Ministry of Finance, and copies were sent to the Ministry of Works and Transport.
And in terms of your financial audited accounts for 2015 to 20?
Right. Well, we already concluded 2015. We're just waiting on the management letter, right? Yeah. We're just waiting on the management letter from the auditing firms. We had 2016 field work is finished. fieldwork is finished. And of course, we're just waiting on the availability of the AGM right now to conclude 2015, 2016 moving forward. We had a bit of challenges with the auditing firm in terms of they're getting the resources to come to complete the other years of audit, but we are working with them to bring it up to par and bring it up to current. We are working with them. 2016 will finish by July 2021.
2017
and 2017 at least by October 2021.
And
that is 18. Well,
18, 19, and 20.
We'll be able to, as soon as we conclude those 2 periods, because of course we're heavily dependent on the auditing firm. They already expressed us that they have some challenges with their resources coming to VMCOTT, right? Internal challenges. So we're working with them. So after we conclude those 2 periods, definitely I'll be able to give you a deadline for the other outstanding years of audit.
Well, you know, you're in violation of the law as a company, and you're in violation of the State Enterprise Manual as well. So I really want to appeal to you and the chairman of the board, Lieutenant Colonel Bennett, to really take your functions and your mandate seriously and get those reports to the relevant entities so that they can be forwarded to this committee. Can you put in writing what you have just told us about the administrative reports that they have been sent to the Ministry of Finance? And can I ask the Ministry of Finance Director of Finance, can I ask the Director of Finance to tell us when those reports that have been submitted by the entity, VMCOTT, will be submitted to the Parliament, because the Mrs. Natasha Prince has made it very clear that they are in your possession. Only 20 is outstanding.
The 19, 20
of the financial audited accounts. Tell us, what is the Finance Ministry doing to ensure that this thing is speeded up? Director of Finance,
Chairman, I wish to say that we do not have the administrative reports in sight. What happened is the administrative report normally goes to the line ministry, and the line ministry is the one who sends it to Parliament.
Okay.
We,
well, then
as Investments Division, we receive the audited financial statements, and after the annual meeting, we submit those accounts to Parliament.
Okay. Well, may I ask Mrs. Ramdas, the Permanent Secretary, to give us an update on those reports, and where are we with both?
Yes,
Madam.
I am seeing where we do have the 2016 and 2017. I would have to check my records for the 2018 and 2019. We have not received the 2020 administrative.
Yeah, and when can you give us the assurance that those things would be forwarded to the Parliament, seeing that it is in your possession?
As soon as possible, Chair.
How long have you had those?
I would have to check my records to see how long, but I
That means you have it for a very long time, because if you had that recently, you would have told us. So you have to check your records. But can you check your records and get back to us, and also give us an undertaking that you all will speed up those outstanding financial audited accounts that this company has been lagging behind in submitting? That is 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. Can we get in writing from your good self when those reports are going to be submitted to the Parliament through the relevant ministry, so that we can look forward to doing the people's work.
Definitely.
So we don't have to be concentrating on only, we are in 2021 and we are now examining 2013 and 2014 audited financial statements. Whilst Natasha Prince would have been there in whatever capacity, she only became acting CEO in 2018. So she wouldn't be able to answer all those questions. So we need to get those reports in at a, so we can deal with things in real time. So Madam Permanent Secretary, could you give us something in writing?
Definitely. Thank you, Chair.
Right. Yeah. And Mr. Bennett, the chairman, I want to direct this final question to you. And the question is, are you a full-time executive chairman?
Chair, at this time, there are no executive chairmen to my knowledge, and I am not one.
You're not a full-time executive chairman?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm a chairman who attends board meetings once a month. I am at VMCOTT compound on a regular basis because before we had a finance manager, I was the co-signature with regard to all checks and payments and bank transactions. After 3 months of hiring the services of an appropriately qualified finance manager, I have relinquished that responsibility except for checks over the value of $30,000. And as such, I am here when required.
Mr. Bennett, Chairman?
Chair.
Can you tell us whether you were given a letter from the Minister of Finance authorizing you to sign these checks?
Sir, that is the policy of the board and the policy of the company for authorization by the CEO, the finance manager, and the chairman of the board for signing.
Can you submit that to this committee in terms of writing that policy?
Yes, I will have the CEO do the necessary submission.
Yes, thank you. Well, may I, at this point in time, Mr. Chairman, thank you, your team from VMCOTT. I have a host of questions, but time does not permit prosecution of those questions. So we are going to be sending those questions in writing to the CEO so that she can submit it in submit written responses to our queries and questions. I want to thank you and the team for coming today to sharing with us. And I want to really urge you to submit us in short order all your recommendations that you would like us to consider to strengthen this very important organization which was formed and founded in 2001 to carry out the mandate that you have outlined earlier. So we look forward to your submission, your recommendation, and also the CEO. She has a number of things to put in writing, so we're looking forward to receiving those as well. So on behalf of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee, we would like to thank you, officials from VMCOTT, also all officials from the Ministry of Finance, Investments Division, as well as the officials from the Ministry of Works and Transport. This committee reserves the right to recall VMCOTT at any time. So all we can tell you is stand by. In the event that we need you to come a second round, the committee will decide that. But other than that, we want to thank you very, very sincerely for being with us this morning, for sharing with us the information that you share, of being very frank and open with this committee as it relates to your challenges. And we look forward to your recommendations for us to assist you in strengthening your organization as you go forward. So thank you. At this time, we will now suspend and we will resume our meeting in camera. Thank you all very much. Good evening, good afternoon.
as Mr. Clark